Hi, welcome to the Israel First television program with myself, Martin Blackham, with my wife, Nathalie Blackham. We're so happy to be with everybody today. It's really good to join you across the world, and we especially say hello to our friends in Texas who've been contacting us, and great to have you with us over there in the United States. And I know many of you are watching on the GLC TV platform, so we say hi to you from Jerusalem, from our studios, and hope that you're keeping well. And let us know what's happening in your area. Well, of course, as we come into the studio, we're in the midst of to the end of it, depending on how you look.
End of it, I think, because I can see the sun going down now.
Right, and one of the big news stories was the Jerusalem forest fire. There was many of you may be aware of what happened, but there was a huge inferno not too far from the studio today where we're coming to you live. Firefighting teams managed to contain the Jerusalem area inferno. Fire chief says fire and rescue services allowed citizens of communities affected by the blaze to return home after a hard-fought battle in 7 different locations across the Jerusalem mountains. After a 52-hour battle with unrelenting flames, and we saw it I guess not long after it started, but it was a huge plume of smoke over the mountains of Jerusalem. And just to explain, you've got West Jerusalem and East Jerusalem. East Jerusalem is the desert, and many of you may know it because of when you've been here to visit.
Go to the Dead Sea.
You go to the Dead Sea and you pass East Jerusalem that way. West Jerusalem is the bit where you come into Jerusalem from Tel Aviv. And this is the side our studio is on. This is the side the forests of Israel are built on, basically. They surround the western end of Jerusalem, and this is where the huge inferno was. After a 52-hour battle of unrelenting flames, Fire and Rescue Services Commissioner Dedi Simhi announced Tuesday evening that the Jerusalem area wildfire was finally contained. This is after extensive fire extinguishing efforts. Fire and Rescue Services, 3 days. Fire and Rescue Services said that 204 teams consisting of around 1,500 firefighters and 20 aerial water tankers took part in the efforts to put out the blaze in 7 different locations. 10 communities in the area of the capital were evacuated, including Kibbutz, Sova, Ein Nakuba, Ein Rafa, Ein Kerem, Givat Yachim, Bet Meir, Shoresh, Etim, Ramat Raziel, and Shovan. I even the other day met one of the people who've been fighting the fire in Bet Meir. A school and a hospital were also...
It started in Bet Meir.
Right, it started in the Bet Meir area. A school and a hospital were also evacuated as the fire spread near them. All residents were allowed to return to their homes, except for a number of homes in Ramat Raziel and also the Etam hospital. They may have gone back since this story was written. The fire has consumed over 6,000 acres of land, and Jerusalem District Fire Chief Nissim Twito assessed nature would take decades to recover from the extensive damage. Really wiped it, scorched earth was left. These sights are hard to watch, he said. I've seen how Jerusalem District's green lung turns black within the flames. A great botanist, one does not have to be a great botanist to understand that it will take decades to restore what has been lost. The large area burned in the Jerusalem mountains caused both heavy air pollution in the surrounding towns, and even this morning I was saying to Natalie, I said there was smoke in the air.
And the day after the first day, very early in the morning, and it started again, but very early in the morning, because there is more condensation at that time. I could smell the stench really of the fire, but at that time we didn't know that it wasn't finished, and it restarted in the morning because we had some wind. You have to understand, again, here in Israel we have a wind that goes from west to east almost during all the summer. And so it brings the humidity of the sea, but at the same time, because the fire was on the west of Jerusalem, all the flames, first of all, yes, was getting bigger and bigger because of the wind that they have. And then you have all the smoke going onto Jerusalem. And there was some pictures, like amazing pictures. I think you put some on israelfirst.org, our website. And there was one, you could see the Temple Mount and like the black of the cloud, and the sun was even hidden because of the thickness of the clouds.
Yeah, and it's the Jerusalem mountains are characterized by a natural pine forest. That's what it looks like. The intensity of the fire reached the tops and burned the trees along the entire length. Therefore, recovery from such a fire will take many years and will leave the area scorched for a long time, said the fire director. Hundreds of thousands of animals, including numerous species of reptiles, rodents, insects, and hundreds of different species. Remember, we have deer in the forests, as well as a number of other
and porcupine
mammals.
And hyenas. We have amazing animals there.
Yeah,
yes. And the birds, obviously.
Yeah, and they believed to have perished in the fire. Fire and Rescue Services said the inferno's devastation was on par with the 2010 Mount Carmel fire, which claimed the lives of 44 people and burned through thousands of acres of land. And I think you wanted to say something about the fire.
I mean, so it was more than during the Carmel fire, which was in 2010, but we didn't lose any life, which is, thank you Lord, fortunately. But we know some people. Okay, so it started in Bet Meir, and then it went, because again I was telling you with the wind and these pine trees, as you were saying, so there is a lot of oil, and we're at the end of the summer, so everything is much drier than during the winter or even springtime. So it's like it's spreading very fast, and so we know some people in Ramat Raziel who had, and I'm sure a lot of people might know about them, is the Harrari family, and they were making harps for the Temple Mount and for people to buy some beautiful harps. It's a big story. We've done some program with her many years ago, and the thing is, what was important, this couple rediscover how to make harps and kinnor and nevel, okay? Because it's a bit different. You have one with 10 string and the other one with 22 string. Like 22 string is about the Aleph Bet, the letters of the Aleph Bet. So again, there is a whole re-understanding of how the Psalms of David was. It's a lot of understanding of how was the harps used during the temple, during the kingdom of Israel. And they had I think 20 or 30 harps were ready over there to be sent, and they were making some, and the workshop went on fire. There is nothing anymore. I saw the pictures, it's just like nothing anymore. And you can imagine it was all wood, there was some precious wood, all these things. They lost everything. And also the wife, I can't remember her name, his name is Micah, and I can't remember, but she was also somebody who was doing natural health, and she has a lot of files, and she had a cabinet for people to come, and everything was next to the workshop, and everything went on fires. It's like 40 years of their life just taken out. Now they had to run. He said he couldn't even take his wallet away. It's like, because they were trying at the beginning, thinking, okay, we can do something, and suddenly they say, we can't do anything, we have to run for our lives. So they run for their lives. And when they left, their house, fortunately, was on the other side of the road, and their house has been spared. But they didn't know at the time. When they saw the fire, they thought, that's it, we are going to lose everything. So it's a very hard thing. I don't know if you remember, I think it was 2 years ago, we had also some friends, Shirley Portnoy, he was also in a community who had a fire. They lost everything. He was a musician, he lost all his instruments. And this friend was also in one of the fire this week. And he thought again, you can imagine the PTS that you go through. Is like, oh, I'm reliving it all over again. Fortunately, their house haven't been burned this time. And he's like, he can't even, he's like, well, my house is not burned? Really? Because last time he lost everything. You can imagine, you know, the trauma of all these things. So I wanted to tell you, if you want to help, let us know. I know that there is few people who are going to help them to rebuild the workshop, because it's very important. They were bringing also, they were doing the harps for the temple institute, and Micah has a very special harp for his wife, and is all gone. There was something else also, yes, in Givat Yarim. So again, all these communities are very next to each other. They are on the right of the Road 1. Road 1 is the motorway, goes from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And we live on the left side, and then they're on the right side. We are very close to them. We could hear the aeroplane and everything. It was quite frightening. We had also the second day, the big hospital Hadassah, which is on the west side of Jerusalem, because the fire was, you know, extending, and they were almost ready to evacuate, but in the end they didn't. We have some children, our own children, who lives just next to it, and they told them, prepare your bag, get your bag ready. But in the end, unfortunately, they didn't need to evacuate. So it's a huge things. Okay, we know that it was not a human error. We know that it was done intentionally. Like Martin was saying, there was 20 aircraft. One other thing that I wanted to say, you, for the first time, the Israel, the IAF, the
Air Force,
thank you very much, had a big plane that they used for the first time, which is called Shimson, which is Samson in English. And for the first time, it's been used with, again, retardant powder. And so you have to know, usually you have plane with the powders, and you have firefighters on the side with the water. Now, there was one thing also which was interesting. There was a community, again, who's been built many years ago, is a kibbutz, and they are surrounded by the forest, and they say, okay, we need to do something to protect ourselves. So they've done a special system of water all around the kibbutz, and when there is something that happened like that, they use this system, which is watering with high pressure all the area of the kibbutz, and really to try to protect. It's like their own protection. And it worked. They were not as damaged as the others. And now some communities are thinking to do the same. But this is very big. This is the biggest fire that was since the state of Israel was started. Okay, people are traumatized with already all the things that are happening, plus that, you know, is adding. And like Martin was saying, is a lot of pine trees on the east of Jerusalem. You have the desert, almost no trees. There is few communities who have their own trees, but usually is called the Judean desert, okay? And after it goes down to the Dead Sea. So the west side of Jerusalem is very important, and they planted for a long time, since the beginning of the state of Israel. They planted trees and planted trees and planted trees, and so it was really the lungs of Jerusalem. And because we are on the other side, and because of the wind, we didn't smell anything, which is amazing because we are so close to the fire. But the people who are in Jerusalem, all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, for a few days could not, I mean, they could go out, obviously, but it's like people who had respiratory problem, they couldn't go outside because the air was terrible. I've been in Jerusalem on one of that day, and it was terrible compared to where we are here. And we are high in the hills, so we have fresh air always coming. But then they are more down, and all the fumes were coming to them, so it was really bad in Jerusalem. And so this is really bad. yeah, and there was one more story that we want to tell you. So there was in Givati Yarim, so this was the first day. There was a big vineyard, a winery, and they were going that day. It was the first day for them, do you remember, going to harvest for the wine and for the grape. And he saw his place. He had to fight. They were working at the beginning, early in the morning, and they heard that something was happening, but they didn't know that it was for them. And suddenly they saw the flame and they had to flee. And he went on another hill and looked at his place, and who were going in fire, and there was explosion because there was bottle who were like on fire and everything, and he lost everything. He was an amazing guy because he had a lot of bitaron is faith, and he was like, okay, my hands is in God. And it was beautiful to see how he was
trusting
God, and because he didn't have even insurance. And our friend, the Harrari, also we have the harp, they had insurance for a while, and then the insurance said, no, we can't insure you because you are too close to the forest. So they knew already that there was a risk.
Fire risk, yeah.
A fire risk, yeah. And but they were established there, they were happy. So it's a beautiful place. I went twice over there. And I saw him making the harps, I saw the place, it's
really a tragedy. But if you'd like to help, Will, and you're watching from the YouTube, or you want to help, then look out for our YouTube video. We'll put a link on how you can get in touch with us about that, about helping. Well, there's been a very important discovery. It's not really discovery in some ways, but very important information is coming forward. An Israeli scientist says COVID-19 could be treated with Ivermectin for under $1 a day. Double-blind study shows Ivermectin reduces diseases, duration and infectiousness. Ivermectin, a drug first used to fight parasites in the third world countries, could help reduce the length of infection for people who contract coronavirus for less than $1 a day, according to recent research by the Sheba Medical Center in Tar HaShomer. Professor Eli Schwartz, founder of the Center for Travel Medicine and Tropical Disease at Sheba Medical Center, conducted a randomized, controlled, double-blinded trial from May the 15th, 2020 through the end of January 2021 to evaluate the effectiveness of ivermectin in reducing viral shedding among non-hospitalized patients with mild to moderate COVID-19. Ivermectin has been approved by the United States Food and Drug Administration since 1987. The drug's discoverers were awarded the 2015 Nobel Prize in Medicine for its treatment of onchoiasis, something like that. Nathalie's a nurse, so she'll know what that means. A disease caused by infection with a parasite roundworm. Over the years, it has been used for other indications, including scabies and head lice. Moreover, in the last decade, several clinical studies have charted to show its antiviral activity against viruses from HIV and the flu to Zika and West Nile. The drug is also extremely economical. Studies published in the peer-reviewed American Journal of Therapeutics show that the cost of ivermectin for other treatments in Bangladesh is around 60 cents to $1.80 for a 5-day course. Costs up to $10 in Israel, Schwartz said. In Schwartz's study, 89 eligible volunteers over the age of 18 who were diagnosed with coronavirus and stayed in state COVID-19 hotels were divided into two groups. 50% received the medicine and 50% received a placebo, according to their weight. They were given the pills for 3 days in a row, an hour before a meal. The volunteers were tested using standard testing with the goal of evaluating whether there was a reduction in viral load by the 6th day. Third day after termination of the treatment, they were swabbed. Nearly 72% of the volunteers treated with ivermectin tested negative. Listen to this: tested negative for the virus by day 6. In contrast, only 50% of those who received the placebo tested negative. In addition, the study looked at culture viability meaning how infectious the patients were, and found that 30% of ivermectin patients were infectious, 13% compared with 50% of the placebo group, almost 4 times as many. Our study shows first and foremost that ivermectin has antiviral activity, Schwartz said. It also shows there is a 100% chance that a person will be non-infectious in 4 to 6 days, which could lead to shortening isolation time for those people and could have a huge economic and social impact. Now,
they are using it in India, and it's working very well.
Now, one of the things that is very concerning, and which you need to know, is that there has been a blackout on this news story. There's also been a blackout on the stories regarding ivermectin. They have been not allowed to be shown in the media. And indeed, the professor who did that study went on to say he tried to get in contact with the health ministry, he's tried to contact different people, and nobody wants to know about this medicine. But his report clearly showed, and it was a scientifically peer-reviewed report, which means that other scientists will have reviewed it with the necessary data that's provided. That clearly shows that ivermectin has an effect when treating patients. And as I say, the disturbing news, Nathalie, is that it's been completely covered up.
And I have a story today of a friend who had COVID, and she took the ivermectin and she was better. Now she still has some trouble for sleeping and everything. She went to see a doctor, and a doctor told her that she can have ivermectin in a special way and this and that. And so this lady said to the doctor, yes, I had ivermectin. I said, really? And he said, yes. And so she tried to find, now she has a prescription, a special one like after COVID. And she goes to Maccabi. Maccabi is the place to have medicine from the States, and she couldn't have it. But she went to another place which is private, and she could have it, but it's very expensive. So there is, like what Martin said, there is really a blackout of ivermectin.
They're covering up the story
we know that
in the main media, and but we'll put a link on the YouTube. How there's an organization called Frontline Doctors in America who will help you find out more information about, if you're interested in wherever you're watching in the world. Frontline Doctors, although it's based in the United States, they have connections in other countries.
Yes, and they have protocol for people who have the COVID, people who have heavy COVID, and for people who are post-COVID. Because again, if you didn't have ivermectin, and this ivermectin we discovered that is working on the spike protein. So even if you don't take ivermectin at the beginning and you have post-COVID trouble symptoms, again, you can have also a special protocol for you. You go on to Frontline Doctors and you will find all these protocols, and it can really help you. And we know that it's saving lives, so it's very important. And
we'll put a link under the video on YouTube. So if you're watching and you're not watching on YouTube, just go to our website, which is www.israelfirst.org. On the website, there's a link to our YouTube channel, and then you can watch this program as well as get the information, which we'll put underneath the YouTube. And
we wanted to tell you also, when we're speaking about the fire of Jerusalem, we live here, we are used to hear a lot of aeroplanes coming because of the fires that we have all around during the summer, regularly, periodically. And this time when we saw the fire, because we could see people from around Jerusalem say, hey, can you see the fire? And we said, no. So we went upstairs and look above, and we could see the fire. And we said, we haven't heard any aeroplane. And usually we hear aeroplane. And for a while I was listening, we could see that it was a huge fire. We could see like clouds were getting orange with the heat. So we knew that it was an immense fire, and we're like, we're waiting, because you get used to, we're waiting to hear the aeroplane. The aeroplane wasn't there. I was like, what's happening? This is huge already, and we can't hear any aeroplanes. Okay, just for you to know. And we heard some other people saying, where we were, the aeroplane didn't arrive very early, And obviously, you know how it is when the inferno starts with the heat, is igniting, is like spreading so fast, like the fire has their own lives, and you have to take it as soon as possible. And we did not hear the aeroplanes, and now we hear some other people saying the same. We say the aeroplane didn't arrive early enough, just for you to know.
And you know, there are a lot of things that are concerning that are happening at the moment, and one of them is the vaccine passport, the restrictions that are being put on the country by the Israeli government, the overreach of governments. And just on Sunday, unfortunately, that's the Sunday that's just gone, 318 fines were issued for the ridiculous offence of not wearing a mask, compared to 89 on Saturday, despite the fact that it's clearly proven that this isn't really effective. Washing of hands and general hygiene, yes, but the wearing of a mask to try and stop a viral infection isn't so effective, and this is a proven fact. But despite that, everybody has now to walk around with this thing on. Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, in a discussion on Monday, instructed Public Security Minister Omar Bar-Lev and Police Commissioner Kobi Shabti to step up the enforcement of the ridiculous and discriminatory COVID restrictions over the next 8 weeks, at the expense of much more important missions, and urgent missions, by the way. Israeli police announced in a statement on Monday that they had already begun to expand the level of enforcement of these nonsensical restrictions, and they will be increasing their wasteful efforts starting on Tuesday. What on earth is the point in healthy people? We're not talking about sick people. We're talking about healthy people wearing these things, and it is very concerning, the discrimination that we're seeing.
Now, I want to tell you something too, because we have some people who had some health problem, and so the ambulances arrived for them, and they were speaking to them. Some people were very nice. They had to have the ambulance a few times because the husband has to go to the hospital a few times, okay? And some people were nice, but some, when they started to say, we are not vaccinated, here we go. This was a different story. They changed the way of how they were behaving with them. So it's like all the time
discrimination.
You can see things,
right.
And we heard again, and we have some videos. If you want to, you ask us on info@israelfirst.org. We have some videos of rabbis who are saying you need to have the vaccine. You have to, first of all, also...
Which is incorrect.
Which is incorrect, obviously, and some rabbis were saying you have to look after the vaccinated and don't look after you have to look after the vaccinated first, and then you look after the unvaccinated. Which is, again, totally and discrimination.
But we've also got videos of people who are saying you shouldn't, so... Yeah, that's important for you to know as well.
I know, but it's like you can see, it's
there's a
war.
discrimination.
It's a war.
What Natalie's saying is that there's people saying things which are wrong and discriminating against unvaccinated people, which is rising to new heights in Israel, with the ridiculous restriction coming into effect just this week of children aged 3 to 12 must have a PCR test, before they go into enclosed spaces with large numbers of people, such as hotels, event halls and restaurants.
I know. And we have to say again that the PCR are not working. They are done, and they can catch any kind of viruses. So it's not for the COVID.
Yeah.
It can pick up the COVID, but it can pick up a lot of things. So you have a lot of wrong, positive.
But again, they're testing healthy
positive.
people. The people who are arriving at these halls, these events, are not people with high temperatures, sneezing and coughing. These are healthy people arriving who have to have a PCR test just to get in. And by the way, I just this week had the opportunity to look at what's happening in the clinics in Israel, and it's complete chaos. They are now divided into two sections. One is corona patients, and the second section is anybody that's not corona. And then they also have people coming for these tests, so that what they call the PCR test, which seems to be making a lot of money.
So the people are all mixed together.
Everybody's mixed up, and it's
Balagan.
Well, it's concerning, because if it's real, they shouldn't mix them up. If this is a real pandemic, why are they mixing everybody up? There's more questions that I've got than they're answering. So it's something very concerning. And by the way, if some things are happening in your area where you're watching today, then please get in touch with us. We want to know what's happening. And, you can contact us, as Natalie said, at info@israelfirst.org. If you'd like to look at some of the things we're doing on the website, get the latest news from Israel. We do a daily news Israel story, then visit the website www.israelfirst.org. There's a lot of information on there. And you can also get in touch with us. There's a messaging box. Don't forget, it's because of your support that we're able to come to you today. So thank you for your support. We need your support, especially we're having our summer fundraising campaign. So please get involved in that. And don't forget, you're watching the program that looks at the land, the people, and the language.